The transmission started on April 3, 2007. At exactly midnight, an amateur radio operator named Steve Mallard picked up a faint signal while scanning through static on his vintage Yaesu transceiver. He logged the frequency as 119. 1 megahertz, which wasn't unusual in itself, except that frequency wasn't allocated for amateur use. In fact, it shouldn't have been broadcasting anything at all. The voice that came through was male, muffled, frantic, and unmistakably real. "Hello? I'm still here. Still not where I was. Can anyone hear me?" Then, a burst of static. Then silence. Steve stared at the speaker. He rewound the recording. Played it again. Same voice. Same desperation. It didn't sound like a broadcast. It sounded like a man stuck somewhere and begging for help. Steve, 54, was a former telecommunications engineer who ran a hobbyist blog called Signal Sleuth. His garage in northern Ontario was cluttered with radio towers, antenna arrays, and homemade amplifiers. He loved puzzles. But this one, it felt different. He posted about the signal, asked others to listen in. At first, no one could replicate it. Then, on April 6th, another amateur, Joan Vega from Duluth, picked up the same signal. Same voice. Same message. Only this time, the man added, "Name's Drew McAllister. I was hiking. Went too far. Trees moved. Can't find the trail. Days don't work right here. I'm underground, I think." That name, Drew McAllister, triggered something. Steve searched online, combing through missing persons databases. He found a match. Drew was a 31-year-old backpacker who disappeared in July of 1978 during a solo hike in Lake Superior Provincial Park, just 200 kilometers from Steve's home. His body was never found. At the time, authorities assumed he drowned or got lost. But here was his voice nearly 30 years later, calling out from a frequency that shouldn't exist. The signal repeated every night for the next 10 days. Always at midnight. The message changed slightly, more rambling, more urgent. "I walked for hours. Nothing changes. The sky's too close here. It watches. If anyone's listening, don't respond. It hears the voices. Don't answer the echo. I think I saw someone else here. But he's not alive. He's not dead either. He was growing out of the wall." Theories exploded online. Time rift? A trapped consciousness? A prank? But then, on April 14th, the signal changed again. A third party responded. "Drew, do you copy?" A female voice. Calm. Measured. Radio clear. "This is site echo. You are not authorized to broadcast." There was a pause. Then Drew's voice again. But slower now. Slurred. "They found me." Static. Then the signal died. Forever. Steve was shaken. His emails to the Canadian Telecommunications Authority went unanswered. He visited the location where Drew had gone missing. Brought a shortwave unit. Camped in the same spot. Nothing happened the first night. But on the second, around 3:00 a.m., he heard a rustling outside his tent. He unzipped the flap. There was no one there, except, in the clearing, his transceiver was on, despite being switched off. Crackling. Then it clicked once, like someone keyed a mic silence. Then, faintly, "Hello? I'm still here." Steve left in a panic. When he uploaded his final blog post, he sounded more subdued than ever. His words were simple. The signal wasn't just a call for help. It was a warning. Whatever Drew found or whatever found him wants more voices. If you hear it, don't reply. That's how it learns you. I won't be listening anymore. The post was dated April 17th, 2007. He was reported missing on April 20th. His equipment was found still running. His journal was open on the desk. A single line was scribbled on the last page. Frequency 119 doesn't broadcast from here. It pulls from beneath. In 2019, a graduate student researching auditory hallucinations stumbled across archived Signal Sleuth recordings. Curious, he played the original broadcast in a sound isolation lab. He analyzed the waveform. Buried in the spectrogram was something that hadn't been noticed before. Another voice whispered beneath Drew's. It said, "We remember your name now." In November of 1991, the regional airport in Cedar Hollow, Utah, experienced a security breach so unusual that the report was never officially filed. At 3:43 a.m., a night shift groundsman named Lucas Pritchard noticed movement near a hangar that had been decommissioned for over a decade. Through the fog and sodium lights, he saw a woman, barefoot, in a long white dress, walking slow circles near the edge of the tarmac. At first, he thought she might be lost, possibly sleepwalking. He radioed in, but no one responded. The air was too still, the radios too quiet, so he walked out toward her. She never turned to face him, never acknowledged his approach. She simply kept circling. Her feet left no prints. Her dress didn't flutter in the wind. And when he finally stepped close enough to speak, she whispered a name. Not his name, but one he recognized. The name was Eloise. It hit Lucas like a punch. It was the name of a child who had gone missing exactly 1 year ago, on November 14, 1990, after deboarding a flight with her mother. Security footage from that night had shown the little girl walking hand in hand with her mom. And then not at all. One frame she was there, the next she was gone. It sparked a local media frenzy, accusations of kidnapping, but no leads were ever found. No footage showed anyone taking her. No camera caught her leaving. She had simply blinked out. Lucas remembered it well, because he was working that night too. Now this barefoot woman, face obscured by long black hair, was murmuring Eloise's name, over and over. Lucas tried again to speak. His voice cracked. "Ma'am, are you lost?" She finally stopped walking, turned toward him. Her face, if you can call it that, was wrong. Like someone had carved features into a wax mold and then let it melt in the sun. One eye was set too deep. Her mouth was too wide. And when she opened it, the sound wasn't a voice, but a radio transmission. Faint, metallic, like an air traffic controller's mic feed, played through a bad speaker. Flight 77 clearance denied. Passengers not accounted for. Then she took a step toward Lucas and vanished. Lucas ran. Security swept the area. No one found anything. No footprints. No security footage. No radar ping. The fog was so thick they chalked it up to a trick of the light, a possible hallucination. Lucas was given 2 weeks paid leave. But the next night, an entire family disappeared. Flight 624 was preparing to board for Portland. A family of 4 checked in. Passport scans, luggage tags, and boarding passes confirmed. The gate agent remembered them distinctly, especially the youngest daughter who'd been humming a lullaby. But when the plane landed, their seats were empty. Their names weren't on the manifest anymore. Security footage was reviewed. Their check-in existed. But from the moment they walked toward the terminal, the video glitches, frames skip, pixels smear. And when the footage resumes, they're no longer there. As if they were never on the flight at all. What really disturbed investigators was what showed up on the logs. All 4 of their boarding passes were scanned again, at 3:43 a.m. the next night. At Hangar 3, the same location where the barefoot woman had walked her silent circles. Hangar 3 had been sealed since 1982, after a fire during cargo storage led to a full closure. No one should have had access. No scanner should have worked. But the machine logged the scans. And the system briefly listed the destination for their passes as Flight 0 runway unknown status. En route, the entry disappeared minutes later, replaced with an error message, "No such flight exists." Lucas didn't return to work. He left Cedar Hollow entirely, moved to Arizona, changed his name. He wrote a letter to airport security 6 years later, after hearing about another disappearance at the same airfield. His letter read, "There's something wrong with that tarmac. It's not just the woman. She's the signal. A warning. She only walks the loop when a passenger is chosen. She doesn't call the missing. She announces them. And don't follow her if she says your name." The letter was filed away and ignored. In 2019, a paranormal investigator attempted to recreate the conditions. He accessed archived security footage from 1991. Especially the moments Lucas had described. He enhanced the audio, slowed the frames, and noticed something chilling. In the reflection of the hangar's side window, you could faintly see the woman's back as she circled. But her shadow? It didn't follow her. It walked toward the camera and smiled. Camp Ridgepine was nestled deep in the backwoods of North Carolina, far enough from the nearest town that you couldn't hear a car engine for miles. Established in 1954, it was once a thriving summer getaway for kids across the Southeast. Canoeing, hiking, bonfires, crafts, and all the cliches that came with growing up in the shadow of pine-covered hills. But what made Ridgepine infamous, what eventually led to its shutdown in the summer of 1996, was that every few years, without explanation, one camper would go missing. Never more than one. Never less. Always one. No body. No footprints. Just gone. The camp did what it could to cover it up. They chalked it up to runaways, or blamed family custody disputes. But the pattern persisted. Once every 3 or 4 summers, a child would vanish sometime between midnight and sunrise. Cabin doors locked from the inside. Windows shut. The kids didn't scream. They didn't leave notes. They just evaporated. But the counselors, those who stayed long enough, started noticing other things. Unnatural silences in the woods. Flickering lights between the trees. And most disturbingly, a sound that only the missing kids ever talked about. A strange, looping static that buzzed from the forest after dark. A few brave campers said it came from a device. A box buried beneath the pines. In 1995, Emma Walcott, a 17-year-old junior counselor, began keeping a journal after one of her campers, 9-year-old Noah Bain, vanished during the 3rd week of July. She'd been watching Cabin Redtail, lights out at 10:00 p.m. Noah had brushed his teeth, zipped into his sleeping bag, and said goodnight. At 6:00 a.m. his bed was empty. Nothing in the room was disturbed. His shoes were still neatly placed beside the bunk. But the window, slightly ajar, too small for even a child to slip through. Emma blamed herself. But deep down, she couldn't stop thinking about what Noah had said the day before. They were walking back from the lake when he tugged on her shirt and said, "Miss Emma, do you hear it?" She asked what he meant. "The box," he whispered. "It plays when it wants someone new." She laughed nervously. "What kind of box?" He pointed into the woods. "It lives under the old tree with no birds. You have to be real quiet. You can only hear it if it wants you to." Emma thought it was just kid nonsense, until he disappeared. And then, 2 nights later, she heard it too. Started just past midnight. Faint, rhythmic crackle. Like a detuned radio. Not quite music. Not quite words. Just a pulse of sound weaving through the pine needles. It wasn't coming from the cabins or the main office. It was coming from the woods. The same direction Noah had pointed toward. Emma grabbed a flashlight, snuck past the sleeping cabins, and entered the forest. The deeper she went, the stronger the sound became. Not louder, but more intimate, like it was inside her ears, vibrating her jaw, whispering just beyond understanding. And then she saw the tree. It was dead. Completely. All the others around it were full and green, but this one was skeletal, black bark, no leaves, no moss. No birds. The air was wrong there. Too cold. At its base was a patch of disturbed earth. And poking through the dirt like a fossil was the corner of a tape recorder. She knelt, brushed it off. It was ancient, covered in grime and mold, but the reel spun. No power source, no tape inside, just static. She reached to touch it, and the flashlight flickered out. When Emma came to, it was morning. She was lying in her bunk, shoes muddy, hands trembling. The counselor in the next cabin said they'd found her curled up outside the mess hall, whispering something. "She's not here, but she still watches," Emma had said. The head of camp dismissed it. Too much stress. They let her go early. She never returned to Ridgepine. But before she left, she made a copy of her journal entries and mailed them anonymously to the county sheriff. In 1996, Camp Ridgepine's final summer, 3 children vanished in one night. It was the first time more than one had gone missing. Their bunks were empty, all the doors locked, the windows sealed. The camp closed the following week. The site was abandoned. No media, no official explanation. But a park ranger who patrolled the area in 2003 claimed he found something during a routine sweep. A box, half buried under the roots of a scorched pine. Old, rusted, but still humming. When he opened it, he found a tangled mess of wires and cassette tape. He tried to remove it, but the moment he touched the tape, the static stopped. And a voice said, "She sees you now." The ranger left and never returned. Today, the camp's ruins are overgrown, swallowed by ivy and moss. But hikers sometimes report hearing strange sounds at night near the ridge. Whispers that don't echo. Old songs playing faintly in the air. And in the silence that follows, a crackle, and a child's voice. Looping, stuttering, broken. "Help me! I'm still. I'm still. I'm still."